Hello, it is very nice to be back, and literally as I'm saying that I realise that you probably didn't even know that I was gone anywhere, because I didn't really go anywhere. Basically all that's happened is I've missed 2 uploads, which is basically just 1 week of uploading, but it's the first time I've properly missed it since the beginning of the year, so I feel the need to apologise, but it's fine. It's not like you were deprived of anything. It's fine, we're back to regular scheduled programming, and the reason I missed it was not anything mysterious. I was just on a bit of a holiday because I've had 2 I'm not abroad, I'm not stupid, but I've had both my jabs. It's been 2 weeks since my jab, so I did a little visit to my partner and it was very nice and the weather was beautiful and I just had a good time, and I forgot to pre-film and I didn't want to beat myself up about it and stress about it, so I was gone for a week. Big deal, no one noticed, now I'm back, it's fine. And unfortunately I'm coming back with a fairly pitiful wrap up, but anyway, before we get into that, a few little, not admin, that makes it sound boring as shit, but just a few little updates, things to update you on. So if you've been keeping up with the book club that me and B started, the Briar Rose book club, you will realise that only 1 month in and it's gone a bit skew. Basically all that's happened is that lovely B, amazing, talented, wonderful, incredible, had all of her uni deadlines at the end of May, beginning of June, and was obviously working very hard to meet those deadlines. It's her last year of uni, very important year, very important to make sure that the work she hands in is, good and of quality. But unfortunately the May book that we had picked for May, which was probably stupid in hindsight actually, was Plain Bad Heroines, which is a big hunk of chunk 600-page book. So long story short, we weren't prepared to do the discussion, so now we're just going to say that Plain Bad Heroines is going to carry over into June, and we will be having a lighter discussion of Plain Bad Heroines at the end of June, and keep an eye on our socials, which will be linked in the description, and we will announce when that discussion is taking place. And I promise you, now that B's deadlines are finished and the summer is here and we have some time to properly sit down and plan it together, we will be a lot more on it with pre-planning what books we're going to be reading and updating people way more in advance, because I realise I've been quite bad at that. So I apologise, but yes, if you've been waiting on the Plain Bad Heroines discussion, it will be happening at the end of June, and I feel really bad for, I was going to say people, but I mean Karis, wonderful, beautiful Karis, who wanted to read along with us and really made a huge effort to get it done in time because it's such a huge book, and then we didn't end up having it. I honestly feel bad. I was honestly staying awake the other night thinking about it, being oh my god, I made Karis read that huge book, and I don't know if she rushed it, but she read it for a deadline and then didn't come, and I felt awful about it. So Karis, I love you, thank you for reading along with us, and the discussion will happen just later, and I hope you still come because that would be nice. God, this video is trash already. I'm oh, I was gone and now here I am to bring you a steaming pile of shit on my return. But anyway, next little bit of not admin, what is the word, announcement? I don't know. Next little thing I want to talk about is a read-along that's happening in July, because I don't want to do a whole video announcing it because it would literally be a minute long, so I'm going to announce it here because I realise that most people do a wrap-up and a TBR, but I don't do TBRs because I mood read, so I'm just going to announce it here in the wrap-up video. But me and the wonderful Shannon from 155 Books, my reading sprint partner in crime, who I love dearly and have spent so many hours with over the course of lockdown, and our reading sprints on a Sunday at 10 in the morning have really honestly been life-saving. But me and lovely Shannon, go follow her if you haven't already, are going to be hosting a very fun read-along in July. So if you're free for the month of July and you want to get a little bit nostalgic, you want to get a little bit trashy, you want to get bitten by a sexy vampire, please join us for a read-along of Vampire Academy, and I'll put the lovely graphic that I made up on the screen about the dates, and we're going to be attempting to read the entire series throughout the month of July, and that averages out to about 4 or 5 days for each book. I think like maybe 3 for the first initial books because they're shorter, but I've put the dates on the screen. Those are going to be the dates. I'll be free, so I should be able to do it. I remember the first time around I read that series, I completely binged it in like a week, so it's doable. But I do realise now this is the second wrap up in a row where I've only read 3 books in the month, and I just realised that I'm announcing a read along that I'm hosting where I'm going to be having to read 6 books in a month, which is double my current rate. So it'll be fine though, because I think those books read very quickly and they're just very fun, and because it'll obviously be a reread for me, I'm hoping it's fine. But please join us. It might be chaotic, it might be silly, it will definitely be fun, whatever it is. So please definitely join us, and obviously keep an eye on our socials when we, are going to be tweeting about the books and the reading experience, and we might do like, I don't know, some sprints or a live show or just something fun to do with it, because nostalgia's my thing, I love it, and they recently announced a Vampire Academy adaptation for TV, so I'm really wanting to reread that series and discuss it with you all. So please let me know in the comments if you will be joining us for that. I'm very excited. So to recap, Plain Bad Heroines book club discussion will be happening at the end of June, and go follow us on Twitter at Briar's Book Club. I will link it below for updates on that. And if you are free in June and you want to get nostalgic and talk about sexy vampires, please join me and Shannon from 155 Books to read the entire Vampire Academy series. So as I think I mentioned in that big ramble I just did, I only read 3 books in May, and I also only read 3 books in April? That's the month before May. Jesus, yes. So I'm in a little bit of, I'm not saying a slump, I'm not going to say it, I'm not going to speak it into existence. I'm in a little bit of a cycle where I'm, reading numbers on the lower end. I'm not reading a lot of books is basically what I'm trying to fucking say. So anyway, only 3. This won't take up too much of your time. My rambling won't take up too much. Oh my god, just show the fucking books now. So at the very beginning of May, I decided that I want to finally read the Eldest Curses series, which is a ongoing series, I believe, by Cassandra Clare, co-written with Wesley Chu, set in the Shadowhunters universe, which we all know I am whipped for. And these 2 books, and I think it's going to be 3 in total because we know Miss Cassandra Clare has a thing for trilogies. These books follow Alec and Magnus as they are being a couple, being a family, growing as people, as a relationship, and obviously just fighting evil along the way. So book 1 takes place, I think, either just after the Mortal Instruments series ends, or it's sort of like wedged in between book 5 and 6. I'm not entirely sure, but basically in this book their relationship is very new, and they're going on a vacation to sort of like, spend some romantic quality time together, and that vacation gets derailed by all sorts of, demon cult issues. And then in book 2 there is a little bit of a time jump, and we pick up with them I think 3 or 4 years later, where obviously their relationship is a lot more developed and they have a child which they have adopted together. And then this book sort of deals with the high stakes situation that was sort of set up in the first book. Obviously the storyline, the villain antagonist of the first book crops up again in the second book, but obviously this time around Alec and Magnus have a young child and they are much less willing to just launch themselves into battle, and it's basically about how they reconcile their duty to each other and the world, and being the heroes, but then also being able to come home to the kid at the end of the day without being injured and all that. I did a reading vlog for this series, which I don't know if it's that detailed. I literally filmed it, must have been a few weeks ago, and I already don't really know what I said in it. But I did a reading vlog for this series, so if you want to have in-depth thoughts from me, which, to be honest, why would you? You can go watch that, I'll link it below. But ultimately I think this is a fun, series. I do always love being back in the Shadowhunter world. I love, travelling vicariously through these books because the institutes are always in very beautiful places. For example, in the second book they travel to Shanghai and visit the Shanghai Institute, and I really enjoyed that element of it. I loved all the little cameos from characters that we know and love. I think that's probably why I enjoyed the second book more, because this has a lot more, not even cameos, just the characters from the Mortal Instruments are in this book in quite a significant way. And I enjoyed that. And Alec and Magnus were always sort of characters that I love reading about in the main series, and they do like hold up on their own, but I would say, like, if I was to direct someone to like the best of the Shadowhunter series, this wouldn't be the one I would sort of rave about. And I think, as I say in my reading blog, my main sort of gripe or issue with this series and this concept is that because it is like a side series, like a little bit of a side quest, it doesn't really feature much in like the main thread of books like the Mortal Instruments or the Dark Artifices. The sort of main series is like happening over here, and then this series is happening over here, and they don't tend to overlap that much in terms of plot. So it just feels like nothing that bad can happen in this series, because otherwise I would have heard about it in the Dark Artifices or the Mortal Instruments or whatever. So it does feel a little bit like, oh, everything's gonna be fine, and it is just like a bit of a fun adventure, and that is what the first one is. It's just like a vacation that then goes awry. But the second book does plant seeds for a potential like big event maybe happening in book 3 of this series, so I will be definitely reading book 3 of this series because I'm already 2 books in, like, why stop now? So potentially that problem could be solved with the next book. Sorry, burping, unprofessional, rude. But yeah, ultimately these were fun reads and I enjoyed my time reading them, but if I was to return to like a Shadowhunter book which gave me like all of the vibes that I love, I don't think these would be the ones that I'd be like rushing to get back to. But if Alec and Magnus are characters that you enjoy, these are like fun to read for sure. And then that brings us on to the next and last book that I read in May, unfortunately, because honestly, I get to the end of the month and I just don't know where my time has gone, so I'm going to try and work on that. But anyway, the next and last book that I read in the month of May was Ask the Passengers by A.S. King, and honestly, I had a bit of a mind-blown moment when I realised that, like, A.S. King is, like, asking, and this book is called Ask the Passenger. I just thought that was cool. And this is a book that's been on my radar for years. I think when I first joined BookTube and like the online book space, way back in the time where YA was just sort of taking off in the early stages, this was one of the books that I saw lauded a lot on people's channels and blogs, and it just, lodged itself into my brain and I knew I wanted to read it. So when Wonderful Karis was doing an unhaul and she was unhauling this, I asked if I could rehome it, give it a new home and, read it, and I have done, and I really enjoyed it. I think in my haul I said I was a little bit worried about maybe being underwhelmed by this, and I think I was slightly. I think what I was worried about was that because this was sort of foundational for the genre, this was one of the very early ones, that it wouldn't hold up in the sense that like so many books have come after it and sort of not improved upon, but like, developed, I guess, and evolved on, the foundation. So this would feel maybe quite simple and like a little bit stark in comparison to the sort of YA that we get now. Now we have such a wealth of YA and so many diverse and wonderful voices that there are lots more creative ideas and a lot more different takes on different stories, and so maybe like if you go back to sort of early stages it might seem a little bit bare bones, if that makes sense. That was my worry, and I think I sort of had that experience, but what I didn't realise going into this book was that it is sapphic and it is a coming of age story about a girl figuring out her sexuality and her attraction to women and girls, and I really liked how it was explored because I have read a lot of LGBTQ fiction and a lot of it has resonated with me and a lot of it hasn't resonated with me, but what I really liked about this book was that coming out was just not simple, right? And I understand the need for both. Like there are so many books that really celebrate coming out and like finding your label, you know, finding out that you're a lesbian or that you're bisexual or that you're asexual, like finding that label is so helpful for so many people because it finally gives them the verbiage and like the ability to vocalize how they've been feeling, and they feel like they can be part of something, part of a community that's big and welcoming and loud, and you know, you can shout about who you are and be proud and be happy. And that is a wonderful portrayal of, you know, coming out, but that's not everyone's experience. And what this book explored really, really well was the sort of questioning part of it, because our main character Astrid, like, there's no doubt that she is attracted to girls. She has like a sort of secret relationship going on with this girl that she, you know, works with, and they make out in the freezer at work. So there's no doubt of her attraction, but she doesn't know, I guess, if that makes her a lesbian, if that's who she wants to be for the rest of her life, because like once you come out, you're out, right? There's no going back. And she really like takes her time to sit with it, and also because it's a small town in America, there's also issues with that, you know, whether she'll be accepted by her peers and her family. And it is really interesting from that point of view, because when things do start to come out and bubble to the surface, there are a lot of people who feel sort of betrayed, because in this book she actually does have a couple of friends who are gay, and then, you know, they're out about it and honest with her, but it's a secret from everybody else. And I think when they find out that she is questioning, they feel very betrayed, because they're like, oh well, like, we were comfortable enough to tell you that we're gay, but you didn't tell us that you were questioning, or that you could be, you know, like, you know, the same. And I think it's so important to have a book that basically hammers home the point that, like, you don't owe anybody anything. Like, sexuality is so fluid and so personal, and even if people choose to share that with you, it doesn't automatically mean that you have to do the same with them, because it is fluid and it can be always changing. And, you know, I think there's no rush, right? Because you're, you know, young. I think in this book she's like 16, 17. You have so much time to figure things out, and I think there has to be a lot more nuance to the conversation of like, you're gay, you're straight. There's so much in between, and I think that like it's great to have a community that's so out and loud and proud, and like I love that Pride exists and people go there and they have fun and they love it. But whenever I've been to Pride, I feel like overwhelmed and like an imposter, and I just like, I would love for there to be more books like this. I mean, there probably are by now, I just haven't like found them yet. And if you have any recommendations, please leave them in the comments, of like that period of questioning. And maybe you don't come to a conclusion at the end, maybe you don't find a nice neat label that perfectly defines you, and even if you do, there's no guarantee that you're going to stay with that label forever. Like, I don't know, I just really appreciated that like Astrid, the main character in this book, took her time with it, and also didn't allow herself to feel guilty when her friends and her family like were angry at her for not being honest about who she was. You're not lying to anyone by not saying your sexuality. That is so personal to you, and it can change at any moment. So I mean, especially when you're young. So I don't know, I think that was just a very long, big ramble, but I really appreciated like the angle that this had on coming out, because I think the stories that we get so often, which are important, and I really want to like reiterate that they're important, and like, I'm not saying that we don't need them, and that we don't need stories that are about like finding your community and like being so happy and being finally like seen and like, oh, I can breathe. Like, those stories are beautiful and important, but we also need stories that like don't tie everything up in a nice little bow at the end, if that makes sense. I don't know if I've explained that right. And there's another element which the title is sort of based on. So the book is called Ask the Passengers, and throughout the book there are these little sort of vignettes of passengers, people on planes. So our main character Astrid, she likes to do this thing where she sends her love to the passengers. So whenever she sees a plane going overhead, she looks up and she sends her love to the people on the plane, because there's no one in her real life that she is allowed or is able to give her love to. So she sends all of her love to the passengers above her, like in the passing planes. I thought it was really pretty, because like, when I was a teenager, I used to always like look at planes and be like, oh, where are they going? Like, I wonder who's on that plane. I mean, like, I used to just think I was the main character, like gazing out the window like, oh my god, I want to escape. Whatever, teenagers are dumb. But I really like that aspect of the book, and what's really beautiful is that there's like little vignettes of the passengers on the plane and what sort of mental situation they're in at that time. And what's interesting as well is that some of them like feel the love that Astrid is sending. It's a bit strange to explain it, but I really like that aspect, and I kind of wish it had been more of like an element of this book, because I feel like the vignettes were quite short, because obviously the main story is Astrid and her life and, you know, her figuring things out. But that was such a beautiful like image that I just really liked, because I resonated with it. I mean, who doesn't like romantically look at planes and it's like, I wonder like where they're going, and you know, what kind of people are on there, and then, well, what are they gonna do? Are they on a trip for work? Are they going on a holiday? Are they chasing down the person that they love to tell them that they love them? Are they like going to a funeral? Are they like, is it their first time on a plane? Is it their last time on a plane? Just so many questions. But yeah, I really enjoyed this book. I read it very quickly. It's a very readable book in that sense, you know, why I tend to find reads quite quickly. And this was a really lovely one to read sort of like at the beginning of summer. Like, we're getting into June now, and I'm really feeling my sort of like vibey summer books where like just people are just bopping around figuring things out, you know, head empty, just vibes. And I really enjoyed it, and that's it. I think I must be tireder from my trip than I thought, because honestly this video has been rambly mess. I thought this was going to be so simple. I was like, I have 2 things that I want to announce, and I only have 3 books to talk about, 2 of which I've already done a reading vlog for, so like this video is going to be short and simple. Like, I'll be done in like 15 minutes. And I've been sat here for like half an hour just chatting shit, and I have no idea if it's all going to string together in the edit, so... But anyway, yeah, those are the 3 books that I read in the month of May, and I will definitely be trying to do better in June, and definitely in July, because that's when my read-along is, so I definitely have to like get my mojo back for then. But anyway, yeah, thank you for watching this very chaotic yet subdued video, because I'm tired but also rambling about crap. So that's what you get with me. It just contrast, you know? Juxtaposition. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you soon with another video soon. Bye.